Hey guys, I'm back with another video. First of all, let's start off with what I'm carrying before we get into everything else. First, I'm carrying the Hinder FireTac in 20CV, and I'm carrying the Strider SAL in S30V. So today we are going to be discussing the 3V testing I've had done and the steel conversation that has kind of followed after that. It seems like looking around, a lot of this information has been picked up. It's been discussed other places. It seems like there's a little bit of a loss of focus on the original intent of the conversation. There's been a lot of talk about Benchmade the company. There's been talk about, is this even a real concern? There's been jokes made about it. It's all over the place. And I want to kind of bring it back in and refocus the whole original intent and how this even started. So we'll first start with that. I've got my notes here, as you guys can see. So first things first, what is this and how did it start? So I'm part of a group chat on Instagram, and the guys, you know, we talk back and forth. We talk different steel ideas and stuff, or knife ideas and stuff like that. We have a custom maker in there, just a few regular knife guys, some YouTubers, just a random assortment of guys. We just talk knives. So I ended up buying a Bailout. And when I got the Bailout, one of the guys happens to work at a place where he has access to a Rockwell tester. He said, man, I really like the Bailout. I want to check it out. You know, if you let me hold it, I'll do you a solid and I'll check the HRC for you. So I said, hey, cool. Sounds like a win-win. We had some idea that something was going on with the Bailout, because if you look a few videos back, and if I think about it, I'll link it down below, but I stabbed the Bailout into one of those thin coffee holiday, not coffee, but popcorn tins, the lid, and I kind of twisted it because we talked about handle flex, or people always talk about handle flex and things like that when it comes to the Bailout and the bug out. So if you look in that video, you can see that the edge rolled pretty easily, and it also was restored fairly easily. So we kind of had some idea that something was going on with a burnt edge or geometry, or maybe HRC or something along those lines. And when I say HRC, that stands for the Rockwell hardness of the blade, and that's the scale that tells you how hard a knife's steel, or any steel, is, rather. So anyway, I send it in, I get the results back. The results are 56, somewhere in that ballpark. So the guys and I start discussing it. The ideal hardness, or the ballpark hardness you want for 3V, is 60. So we knew that it was pretty low. And with the results we had seen, we knew that, you know, it seemed like it was kind of an issue. So we kicked some ideas around, we talked about it a little bit, and I kind of made a post about it just to put the information out there so people could be conscious consumers. Never was intended to be a Benchmade thing. It never was intended to be just a 3V thing. It was just to purely put out information about a knife I happened to have at that point in time that happened to test below what the general consensus is on the optimal hardness for a 3V steel. So anyway, there was a lot of conversation back and forth, and it just started picking up steam and picking up steam and picking up steam. So finally, I reached out to Benchmade. Benchmade, they exchanged some comments with me and basically said, yeah, we know it's low. It's supposed to be low. That's to increase the toughness and help it be easier to sharpen in the field. So, you know, there was some discussion about that in the community and everything. And again, the general consensus on that was it really doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you go check out Super Steel Steve's video, you can see that the steel is heat treated its HRC is at a point where it does not allow for the steel to perform as we expect a tough steel to perform in a knife. It has plastic deformation, which means it bends and it stays bent if you bend it far enough. And we want elastic deformation, which means you bend it and it comes back to true. So that's kind of what happened there. So fast forward, there's more conversation. There's posts made on Blade forums. There are posts made on YouTube. There are comments made on my YouTube. There are other people that take the information and make YouTube videos. There's some posts on Instagram. It's just all over the place. And the conversation basically is, like I said, the three things. does it even matter? Jokes and basically the Benchmade hate. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So that kind of brings me to what this is not. This is not about a specific company. This is not about a specific knife. This is all about gathering information, putting it out there, and having the conversations to grow as a community in our knowledge about steels. And along that pathway, making solid purchases with your money. Because basically what's happening and what we're seeing is people are paying for premium steels, but they're getting the performance of a much lesser steel. So when people say, oh yeah, the sky is falling, that's dramatic. We're not saying the sky is falling. What we're saying is, why are you paying a premium for 3V steel when something like 154 CM, which Steve showed for a variety of reasons worked better in the Emerson knife he tested alongside the Bailout, and it's cheaper. We know Benchmade uses 154 CM. We know those models tend to be cheaper. It just makes more sense. It performs at the lower Rockwell hardness. It just makes sense. So it's about being an informed consumer and making purchases that are wise and receiving the value for your money. And again, that's not a Benchmade thing. That's not any specific company. If you look on my Instagram page, which is always linked down below, you'll see that I've just sent out 5 Spydercos. I believe it was 5 Spydercos, and all of them came back with results. These are the next knives to be sent out. We've got a 3V Strider, we got the 20 CV Hinder, we've got the S30V Strider, and then we've got 2 different variants of stainless steel in a traditional folder from Case and from GEC. So we take all this data and it's compiled into a chart. As you can see, this chart has tons and tons and tons of knives. It has tons and tons and tons of brands. So this testing has been going on for a fairly decent amount of time. It just so happened that what kind of kicked off all of the discussion was that a Benchmade knife was talked about, and apparently people don't like when you talk about their Benchmades. Again, this is not a Benchmade thing. I'm going to include a link to that chart down below. Check it out. There are all kinds of manufacturers, all kinds of steels. I've just sent out Spydercos. I plan on sending these out. So we're just gathering information to have the conversations to grow as a community in our steel knowledge and to help people be informed consumers. So that's it, period. That's where we're at. I've already kind of touched on what it is, how it started, what it's not, the steel chart, future testings. Oh yeah, in the process, a few guys reached out, and Neil Hogue was one of the people that reached out, and he said, we stand fully behind our product. We have no issue with you guys testing it. We have no issue with you guys doing whatever needs to be done. So I'm supposed to be receiving a package from Hogue Knives at some point. Neil and I have been talking back and forth. He says that he has one of the employees on it, boxing up some things. Apparently he's going to send me a sample of all of the different blade steels that they use, and I think maybe even a knife or something like that to test out. But again, that I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was good because it's showing that we're in conversation and we're seeing kind of who's willing to put their product out there, who's willing to kind of be in discussion, and who's not. Again, it's not a company issue, but it kind of lets you know where everybody stands. It puts everything out in the open, which is where we want to be. The hopeful outcomes of this, I've already talked about that. We just want to put information out there, have conversations, grow as a community in our knowledge, and be informed consumers. I've already talked about the coverage, so now I will go down to why I have these names here. And I'm going to leave these here while I talk about them so you guys can see them. I'll also put links to these pages in the description box down below. So these are all Instagram handles, but all of these guys are part of the testing, part of submitting the knives. They have channels that test different things. Some of these guys, like Triple B Handmade, he and I have spoken back and forth about steel concepts. He's pointed me to some articles to read, etc., etc., etc. Same with Chuck Richards Knives. He's a custom knife maker. Triple B is also a custom knife maker. But Chuck and I, we talk back and forth probably a few times a month, and we've also discussed, you know, geometry, steels, etc., etc., etc. So this is not a one-person agenda against a specific company. This is a group of individuals that are curious about knife steels and knives and using knives and how they function, and honestly what you are or are not getting in a steel. So that's where we're at with this whole thing. So I hope that kind of brings some focus to the entire picture of things. But like I said, I just feel like we were getting a little bit off of the message, and I mean that's fine. You know, people have their right to take the information and read it how they see fit, use it how they see fit, whatever. But I just want to make sure that we're clear as to the original intent. So, and one last thing, I'll show you guys. If you go to my Instagram page, you can see here, just in case you're curious, and I don't have these knives back, but the S30V Delica tested out at 59, the Super Calypso Junior Super Blue tested out at 61, the Rex 45 Paramilitary 2 tested at 66 twice, and well, the Cruair PM2 tested at 62, and the Shaman M4 tested out at 64 HRC. So those are the Spyderco results. So like I said, this is not about Benchmade. This is about gathering data, compiling the data, having a conversation, and moving forward as a knife community. I hope you guys found this informative. I hope you guys continue to be part of the conversation, and I hope it just brings us together and helps us all be better consumers. So thank you for watching. Remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.